All right, look, today's video is going to be a heartfelt letter to myself maybe 2.5 years ago when I first started to make a good amount of money on the internet. I was making 6 figures a month profit consistently, running a business that I really enjoyed, small, lean team. And honestly, at that point, I got super comfortable. And in this video, I just want to kind of be a wake-up call for individuals who, like myself at that time, first started to make some money and first started to do pretty well. And then, you kind of start to think a couple things. First thought that kind of tends to come in your mind is, this will never stop. And it doesn't have to stop. And it doesn't have to stop. You can keep going. But it can stop if you stop planting the seeds necessary for it to continue. The other thing is that you've quote, made it. And you're comfortable. Your life is starting to feel really, really nice. You've got a ton of money in the bank. You've got the esteem and status and respect that you wanted. And, this video is kind of a wake-up call to myself 2 years ago when this first started to happen for me, as well as for other entrepreneurs who are finding themselves in a similar situation where maybe you're making 50, 100, 200 grand a month, and you've kind of got this idea that like things are good. You know what I mean? So there's really two types of activities in your business when you boil them down. There's growth activities and there's maintenance activities. And when you're doing either of these, you're going to be okay. Growth activities or maintenance activities. Where things get dangerous is when this comfort makes you think that you don't have to do anything. And you start to think, okay, I've made it. I've done it. The job's done, mission fulfilled, I've got what I wanted, I've got the car I wanted, I've got the lifestyle I wanted, I've got the status and esteem and respect that I wanted, I've got the freedom of mobility that I wanted. And this is where so many entrepreneurs go to die. Honestly, this is where you go to die. The problem is you didn't move the target. So you had one target in mind, and once you achieved it, you didn't set a new target quick enough. Either you didn't set it, or you didn't believe that you could reach it, or the comfort of where you were now, you literally just in your head decided, I don't even want a new target. I like where I'm at, and I don't want to get better. And I don't want to either maintain or grow. And it's pride, man. What I'm talking about at its core is pride. You get prideful. You start to think that you've already done what it takes to be where you want to be. And that is pride. That's pride. That's you have to stay humble to the truth that you don't deserve anything. Let me make a new page here. You don't deserve all of it. Okay? And what I mean by this is you can put in the work and get things. And by putting in this work or making the sacrifices or planting the seeds, you can attain things. But the second you stop this process, it's kind of like a compounding effect. Like, as you put in the work and as you grow, it's this season right here that really matters. This is where you earned what you now have. And you have to not forget this. Do not forget this season right here. That's where you earned it. It's right then when you had the quote like broke mentality, when you had the starting from scratch mentality. The guys that I know, the buddies of mine who are sitting on 3, 4, 5 million liquid right now, even like 10, 20 million liquid, their mindset is not get somewhere and then call it. Their mindset is continuous, relentless improvement every single day, compounded over time. Their goal isn't a goal. Their goal is getting better. I was watching this interesting video. It talked about like Mr. Beast. Bear with me for a sec. And how a lot of like YouTubers, people on YouTube kind of burn out. And when asked, these YouTubers who have burnt out and who have stopped doing what, they know they need to be doing to grow their business, when asked what their goals are, there's really two types of goals, okay? When asked what these goals are, these people who burned out and stopped doing the work and stopped putting in the effort to be somewhere, when asked what their goal was, their goal almost always was a dollar figure or a certain sort of a house or a certain subscriber level or things like this. It was a number. Whereas Mr. Beast, who, every single year his channel has just gotten bigger and bigger, his goal is to be better. That's it. Every time you ask him what his goal is, it's like, I just want to make better videos. I just want to be better. I want to make better videos, more views. I just want to be better every month. It's that obsessive need to get better. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to like sacrifice your peace. This is actually a very peaceful process. It's changing the goal from being a place. For me, it was once I'm making $100,000 a month profit after expenses, after tax every month, then I'm good. And I started to really think that I was good, and I wasn't good. And not only was I not good, but I stopped doing the work that made things good. Like I stopped making YouTube content. I stopped really putting things out there that I really, thought were good. I stopped working that hard on my programs and products and stuff. And what's funny is, a lot of my clients at the time probably didn't even notice this, but I noticed it. It's not really going to be a public thing, but I noticed it. I noticed myself starting to, cut little corners, cut this corner, cut that corner. And over time, whether you cut these little corners or not can really determine a future. And so, I went through, there was a year there. It was when I would say when I first got engaged into about maybe, probably the year that I was engaged, honestly. I kind of just stopped doing the work. Now, granted, I was focused on getting married and I was moving into a new season of life and all this stuff. So I have a lot of grace for myself. I really don't I'm not sitting here mad at myself necessarily, but I do have higher standards than that. And, this is why another one of the videos I'm making right now is how to integrate all the different areas of your life so that you're not competing for, so they're not vying for your attention all the time. How do you create a life where everything wins together? Your personal life, your professional life, your financial life, your spiritual life, your friendships, all these things. How do you build a holistically good life that grows together? This is very, very important because at the time I had this new thing of, getting married and having a woman come into my life. And that was a whole new thing. And I wanted to do that right. I wanted to have a proper wedding. I wanted to all this stuff. And it created a lot of noise in my head. This is something that a lot of men who get married don't really talk that much about, but getting married, it really affects your career if you've already built it before the career, unless you want to have a really subpar marriage, in my opinion. Because for me, I wanted to really connect with my spouse. I wanted to really do things right. We went to for example, we went to premarital counseling every single week. We went through a bunch of marriage relationship books and stuff. And so my business kind of took a back seat for a while. And again, this was intentional. This is a decision that I made. But what happened during this season was the effort to yield ratio got distorted. I had distortions of reality. When you have a proper effort to the yield ratio, what I mean by this is you have a good relationship between what it takes to get what you want. And usually that starter season, when you're just getting something off the ground, that's when you have that proper relationship with what it takes to really get it. But once you've got momentum, you can forget that. And I kind of forgot it for a while. I kind of forgot what it really takes. And I got really comfortable and I was sitting on my money and I was just chilling, and I got married and I was buying watches and cars and stuff like that. I got super, super cozy. And I just had a really low bar for myself, honestly. $100,000 a month profit's not that much money. It's not that much money. In the grand scheme of business, $100,000 a month profit is kind of nothing. It's not a big deal, But it was enough for me to start to get really selfish. And, I kind of talked a second ago about pride. And pride is always the precursor to selfishness. I got selfish. I started to run a business basically that only served me. I ran a business that made my life the way that I wanted it to be. And now that's a good thing, making a business that makes your life what you want it to be. But your life being what you want it to be needs to give you the energy to go back out and give more so that you can continue to feel this life. Not just so you can sit and just chill. Rest so you can do a better thing. Not rest so that you can just have it your way. And this is kind of how I started to live. I started to kind of just live how I want to live. I didn't really take I stopped taking business seriously. I started thinking, okay, check, done. I've already figured out business, right? And I can move on to these other areas of my life. And it's such an immature, short-minded, I was 22. I'm 24 now. But of course, you're 22, you're making millions of dollars. You're going to have these distortions of reality. You know what I mean? And especially me, honestly, I grew up kind of soft. My parents did well. It's so easy for my brain to go back into these distortions of reality, forgetting what it takes to have what I want to have. And so what does this all mean? And if you're watching this video, then maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you've done well. Maybe you're making 10, 20, 50, $100,000 a month. You're doing well and you're starting to feel some of those slacks kind of start to cut in. You're starting to notice that you're kind of cutting corners and you're doing things a little worse than you used to do them. You're not taking it quite as seriously. My message for you is the message that I wish I would have given my maybe 22-year-old self. Now, there was some I'm giving myself a lot of grace because there's some personal stuff that I went through at that time that I really don't feel ready to share publicly that most definitely affected this. But I could have done a better job siloing my work and being more effective with it. And in the back of my head, on some level, I was, and I know this sounds maybe weird, I was happy to have an excuse to not be working on my business. Does that make sense? I'm finally, a reason that I can point to outside of my own inadequacy that my business isn't where I want it to be. You know what I mean? And I had this personal thing pop up, and I had like personal things that I had to do and all this stuff. And it was like, oh, finally I have this like thing that I can blame. And I started to blame things outside of myself. And this is very common. You know, like for example, like I've noticed some entrepreneurs, they'll get like a big tax bill and they'll be like, the government is the reason why I'm not where I want to be. Or, you know, one of their team members will leave and compete and they'll be like, people aren't loyal and that's why I'm not where I want to be. Or I've noticed that people will try really, really hard in their niche, but their niche won't really pan out. And they're like, my niche isn't where I want to be. You know, there's always blame outside of yourself that leads to the slow decline of your business. You have to take on the pressure. You have to be the sort of a person that enjoys all of these elements being on your back. And what's nice about when everything's on your back and when you feel that weight is it kind of forces me personally into this extremely creative state of mind. I like this state. I like being the center of my life. I like being at the wheel and really owning it and saying the only reason I'm where I'm at is myself. Because anything else, and I lose my power, and you lose your power. And what is power? Well, power is the mental power to create things, the mental power to go and build a better thing. And this can slowly chip away. The most dangerous time that this chips away are when you're doing well and you start to think you've done it. That is when most people lose it. That is when a majority of people in the coaching space I've seen lose it. They lose it here. And, you know, I've coached some people through this and I've worked through this myself. And what's the antidote? How do you actually, what's the fix? What's the solution here? Because, I mean, this is kind of an intense subject. Well, the solution, I think, this is what I found the solution to be. A, take back control. Take back control. Stop blaming anything other than yourself for where you are. Period. There is no other reason why you are where you are in your life right now. The decisions you've made, the mentors you've invested into, the groups you're in, the people you're around, the environments you've surrounded yourself with, the masterminds, whatever it is, the people you talk to, the things you let into your proximity, that's why you are where you are. And you have to take that control back. Just because you've got $1 million in the bank right now doesn't mean that's not going to go away within a span of like a year or two. Maybe shorter. I've seen it go away shorter for people. I've seen it go away in months because people just start to think that they've done it. The second thing is B, I want you to start journaling, and don't forget, geez, dude, my handwriting, where your head is at when winning. Don't forget it. You know, it's really easy to forget where your head is at when you're winning. It's easy to forget the sort of thoughts that are going on in your head, the sorts of mantras that are happening, right? It's easy to forget, you know, kind of the thought patterns and the looped state that you're living in when you're winning. And my journal is really this thing that I can use to reflect back and look at like, okay, this is the state of mind I was thinking. These are the things I was thinking. These are the books I was reading. These are the people I was listening to. These are the sorts of things I was doing when things were going really, really well for me. You know, when things aren't going that well, you know, how do I get back to that state? How do I revert back to that state? And often it's just like a 30-day like reset cycle of saying, okay, I'm going to go from this level of consciousness and, you know, by kind of working on my thoughts, get to this level of consciousness again, referencing my journal when I'm winning. So it's really important right now, if you are winning, to be journaling your thoughts, journaling what you're thinking. You know, what you believe is true, you always end up acting out in your life. And if you act it out in your life, then it becomes true. So what's true doesn't even really matter. What matters is what you believe is true, because if you believe it's true, then you're going to act it out. And by acting it out, you make it true. So it's so important to be documenting your own thought process and saying, this is what I was thinking when I was winning. And the next thing is you need to kind of go through a cut. You need to kind of cut down on the things that have been chipping away at the mental environment that you created for yourself at that time, or maybe the new people in your life. You know, maybe you've introduced some people in your life that don't need to be in your life. Maybe you've introduced some habits in your life that don't need to be in your life. Because truthfully, one of my favorite quotes is, how you do anything equals how you do everything. And so if there's any little area of your life where you're making a sacrifice, where you're saying, okay, I can probably, put this on. I can sit. That's not how it works. And I've lied to myself. I've said, oh, I don't need to have such high standards for my own behavior. I just need to like have leverage. I just need to like run a good business. And you look at Warren Buffett, like Warren Buffett eats McDonald's, you know what I mean? And I make all these excuses, and it's like, well, I'm not Warren Buffett. And you're not Warren Buffett. You don't have that amount of like compounded interest on your side, right? We run a very different sort of a business model, and it requires a lot of self-leadership in order to influence other people, in order to be what they need in their life. And so if you're not leading yourself, then you can't expect others to follow your leadership. So you have to keep a very clean mental environment, free of inner voices, free of conflict in your head. Get rid of these little conflicts. Free of comparison, envy, or ego or pride, right? You got to get rid of these things right here so that you can get back to the almost meditative, peaceful state of just doing the work and getting back into that zone. Because man, it's pretty wild how quickly the things that you build can be taken from you if you're not in this state. And I think I'm made better because of it, and I didn't go that far backwards, but I went backwards enough to be like, okay, this is a wake-up call that I really needed, So I don't know, I just wanted to make this video of like what it takes to build that inner momentum so that your outer momentum can because inner momentum precedes outer momentum, and outer momentum is the real, that's where you earn your keep, but inner momentum is where you earn the keep that then earns the keep later. And it's really easy for people like myself who, I think on some level, what I want more than anything is I want peace, security, a sense of abundance and freedom. It's easy for people like myself who I want these things to, when things are going well, to start to think that I've kind of done it and call it quits with the work and putting in the sacrifice to keep it. And this isn't what I want for you. And I know that I'm better than this, and in the past I haven't been, but I am now. And it's been a journey of a couple of years of really kind of realizing this about myself and saying like, wow, it's really easy for me. And I know it is for a lot of people to just say like, I've kind of done it, I'm good. Like, I don't really need to keep going. Like, I've got enough money in the bank, There's so much in scripture that goes so against that whole belief system of like working just to get yours. Like, this whole mindset is stupid. It's foolish. Stupid and foolish. Getting yours is a wonderful byproduct and should be enjoyed. But if in the back of your head, the subconscious goal is just to, get yours, once you have yours, you're going to stop trying. But if the subconscious goal is to get better and love the process of getting better and watching yourself get better and becoming a new version of yourself and ascending yourself and watching yourself become a better version, watching your work compound over the years, watching yourself become a version of yourself that when you look back, you're just amazed by, that's when it gets consistent. It's a subtle interchange of working towards a numbers-driven goal and shifting the inner mantra to, I just want to get better. I just want to be a better version of myself. And once business becomes a self-development journey and you take your self-development seriously, that's when business gets really, really easy. And honestly, I kind of stopped trying with my self-development there for a minute. I stopped really caring about who I became. I started getting really apathetic towards life, because I had made it. Can you blame me? I made a ton of money. I was super young. I was kind of soft and I had to toughen up. And I married a beautiful girl. I had everything I wanted. And it stopped becoming about getting better. It started just becoming about I don't want to lose this. And then I started thinking about what if I lose it? And then it just stopped working. So it has to be a self-development journey. It has to be you getting better. That's the only game we're playing. And it has to stay that game. And the moment the mantra changes, the moment it stops being about that, that's when things start to decay. Because you are at the epicenter of your life. Your financial life, your relationships, your fitness, your faith, your reputation, your everything. You're at the epicenter of all these things. And I've made stupid, dumb mistakes, and you will too. But I own those mistakes, and I get better because of them, and I continue to learn and I continue to grow because I'm at the epicenter. And my life truly is a process of me getting better than the previous version of myself. And that's what I think it needs to be. I think if we take business and instead of it being us chasing the fruit of business, and we make it us chasing the fruit of becoming better versions of ourselves through the vehicle of business, and hence reaping the rewards as a natural byproduct. This is the state of mind I think you need to get into and sustain for as long as you possibly can, until you're dead. Like, that's the state of mind, is get better. Work on yourself harder than you work on your business, and your business will catch up to your standard. If you work on your business, but you don't work on yourself, then, the business has this like ceiling that it can't pass, because you're standing on that ceiling. You're creating a ceiling. This business cannot get better than you. And the facets that make up a good business owner are decisive. You don't wait on decisions. You make decisions quickly. Good with your money, knowing your numbers, numbers driven, not so emotional. The ability to stay objective even when things are tough. The ability to handle pressure. Humility and a willingness to admit when you've done something wrong and learning from it, and no ego, getting rid of your ego, nothing to prove. Another thing I think is just good leadership, and a good leadership is a byproduct of a lot of these different things. I think another component is being honest with oneself and not lying to oneself about one's reality. And these components, create a healthy character that can really, I think, achieve anything in business, because business shrinks to that person. But the problem is people think that they need to work on their business, whereas in the reality, they need to work on themselves. And I've got clients, and I love these clients, but man, they make excuses. It's just amazing, actually, like how quick they are to blame things that aren't themselves. And they blame my program. They blame, and it's like, the program's worked. Like, we have literally 60, 70, 80 YouTube interviews with client success stories. Like, it freaking works. But you have to take ownership over your own results. Like, it needs to be something you're doing for you. And if it's not working, it's not the program. I have this attitude when I'm making an investment into inventory. Like, it's my job to make this thing work. And I have this attitude when I'm doing anything. Like, it is on me. If that's uncomfortable to you, like, I'm sorry, but you got to grow up. Nobody's coming to save you. The only person in your earthly life that cares as much about your success as you do, it's a small list. It's your spouse, if at all. It's maybe your parents, if at all. It's maybe a couple close friends, again, if at all. But most importantly, I think our Heavenly Father cares. And to look at anybody else and ask them to give you the permission to do what you need to be doing, or to be working to get the approval of, or anything like this of anybody else, like, it's not going to work. Like, it has to be you versus you. That's the only game that matters. Yeah, I just want to make this video and just kind of remind myself of this, because I started to make a lot of excuses. I started to have some trials, both in my personal life and my professional life. And I kind of just started to make some excuses, and I started to kind of get really comfortable. And I had this idea that I'd made it. I had back-to-back 7-figure profit years, and I was sitting on a dumb amount of money, and I just got so comfortable. It's definitely first world problems, but in my opinion, this is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs go to die, especially in this space, especially in the cash flow business models like coaching, consulting, online services, agencies, stuff like that. It's so easy to lose sight of it. So I just want to make this video and kind of just open up on a personal note, as well as just share a note that I think I really needed back at that time, and hopefully inspire a couple people to kind of get back into the driver's seat and stop cutting those corners. Like, the corners you're cutting. People know, the corners you're cutting. The things you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. The little things that you're doing every day that you shouldn't be doing. The mistakes you're making. The problem is you're just not being honest with yourself. And the problem is you're living in a fantasy land that's comfortable to you. And the problem is, money's in reality. That's where the money is. Money is in reality. And if you're tapped out of reality, you're going to be tapped out of money. Money lives in reality. And if you can't live in reality, then man, oh man, do you have a problem on your hands. Like, it's just going to be so hard for you to create something. And I'm watching myself become like a man. You know what I mean? It's really satisfying. Like, I used to be a boy. I was 22. From 19 to 22, I was just winning. And I made a ridiculous amount of money. And I was like Scrooge McDuck, just sitting on my vault of money. And I got so cozy, and I didn't even see it coming. I started to just make all these excuses, and I have no shame. I don't have any regret or remorse or shame or anything like that. It's just so interesting that happened to me, because I honestly never thought it would happen. I thought I was above that. I'd trained people on being above that. So I think what it is these deep, dark pits of yourself, these deep innermost pits, these little dark areas in the back of your psyche that you don't believe you'll ever have to contend with. These are the things that if you don't deal with them, come up later. And for me, like, I like genuinely believed I was a hard worker. I was like, I'm a hard worker. Like, I'd make sacrifices. I said all these things about myself, and I'm not going to settle, and I don't want to get comfortable and all this stuff. And what's interesting is I just started to believe that I was that inherently. And so I just stopped trying. It's actually amazing, like, how quickly over the past year or so, since I've actually like started freaking trying again, like things are going so well again. And I just wish somebody would have sat me down and told me this, you know. Everybody just like felt sorry for me. Everybody in my life was just like, oh man, I'm so sorry, like, that this is so hard for you and all this stuff. And like, I appreciated it. And I do think I needed that. I do think I needed people to just listen, because it did feel hard. It felt very lonely, and it felt very like isolating, and it felt like nobody really understood, because like I'd done so well and I had all these conflicting thoughts in my head. It literally felt like I was like fighting demons, dude. I just wish somebody would have sat me down and told me like, you know, man, I get that you're feeling the way that you feel. I really do. I understand it, but you have to get back in the driver's seat, because if you don't, like, you're gonna regret wasting this like year and a half here. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.